Facilities that make this program possible are provided by the City of Highland Park. Programs are produced independently by members of the community. The City of Highland Park is not affiliated with the following program or the producers of public access programming and is not responsible for the content. The following program does not reflect the opinions of the City of Highland Park.
Hi, welcome to another edition of What's This Show For? FOR, Friends of Ron. I'm your host, Ron Levitsky. Well, today we've got a show that's right up your alley. It's going to really strike your fancy because we spared no details and no expense. Of course, I'm joking a little bit because today we're going to take a look at a sport that probably a lot of us, maybe most of us, did when we were younger and then for whatever reason gave it up, but which is actually a wonderful lifelong activity as some of us get into our senior years. It's a perfect activity to keep us busy, focused, and have a lot of fun, and that, of course, is bowling. And today I have with me not only a wonderful bowler, but a great personal friend of mine, Bob Blake. Bob, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Ron. It's great to be a friend.
Well, thank you. Very few can say that. I appreciate that. It's been interesting to me over the years, because we know each other very well, to see you still involved in bowling again after so many years. And it's sort of fascinated me when I've heard you talk about drilling the ball or what goes into the ball or the shoes. And as we talked further, I had no idea of the complexity. It's sort of like, you know,
Right.
nuclear physics. There's so much that goes into it in terms of math and science, as well as having a lot of fun and physical activity. So today's kind of an intro 101 of Bowling for Dummies, and because I'm the dummy, and you're going to help a lot. And again, when we talked, I was amazed at the different accoutrements that go with the bowling ball or the shoe or whatever. So let's start by, first of all, give us a little bit of background on your bowling history. How'd you get involved in that?
Well, I got involved, my old man worked in the factory back in the 50s, 60s, and so on. And that's what men did back then. After work, you joined the house bowling league. Got together with your friends that you worked in the factory with and went out and had a good time. So as a little kid, I saw him bowling and enjoying it. When I went to college, I got a job at the student center working behind the counter at the bowling alley. And daytime, they had gym classes there where coaches taught you how to bowl, and I really paid attention. I had nothing to do behind the counter. So I got some tips and learned how the machines worked and how the lanes worked and so on. And I thought, boy, it looks easy. I'm going to give that a try. And I was way wrong, but I learned about it and got to like it.
Is it also true? I mean, I remember as a kid that there were a lot of bowling shows on. Is that right?
Oh, sure. Whispering Joe Wilson, and later on Saturday afternoons, ABC always had bowling on. It was very well-watched sport. Now it's hard to find. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on ESPN on given Sundays. But it's not quite the popular sport it was.
Okay, but well, again, what struck me is that you're still with it, and it seems that someone who's a senior citizen could really get a lot out of it.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's talk about some of the I guess tools of the sport. I mean, if you're going to play baseball, you need a mitt and a bat and a ball, and I thought for bowling you need, you know, you go to the lane, you pick out a ball, you'll rent some shoes, and you're ready to
Right.
go. But you've taught me the complexity. Let's talk first about the shoes.
All right, fine. We've got some samples here. If you're a right-handed bowler, your shoe is different from a left-handed bowler. This is the right foot of a right-handed bowler. You can see there's texture here and here to give you a good push-off for that second to the last step. The slide foot, different here, your left shoe. And these pads are interchangeable. You can change the heel to a thicker heel, such as this.
So let's hold that up so the
Okay,
audience can see
sorry.
that. Yeah,
Right.
that's good. And so
And-
actually you can change
and
heels.
You can change heels to change your body pitch.
Would
as
you do
get to
that
line.
during a game or every other game, or?
You would do that once or twice in your life, probably.
Okay.
If you were on a situation where you just really needed to stop, you would change the pitch. If the lane is very, very slick, you put on a pad that won't slide as much. If the lane is very sticky, happens a lot in the summer when it's damp outside, you put on a slippery pad. Also, bowling style, there are some bowlers that will just plant their foot and stick at the line. Others have a more gradual slide, and so these pads provide for that.
Is there anything else about the shoe fitting you that might be different from an ordinary shoe?
Not really, but if you're going to get a house shoe, they don't have anything like that. If you get them at the rental counter for $2, okay, fine. They're neutral. They don't have anything adjustable. Both the right foot and the left foot are the same. So if a lefty rents that shoe or a righty rents that shoe, it's going to give them the same amount of slide.
And what's the cost of a pair of good bowling shoes approximately?
Good bowling shoes would be about $175 a pair.
Okay,
And you can get a starter set for about $50 a pair.
okay. But you'd recommend
Well,
having your own shoes?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. The fit is so important. Everything has to be right.
Okay. Let's turn then to the bowling ball, and then we'll get to
Okay.
some of the other pieces of equipment. Again, when we had our conversation, it really exposed so much of my ignorance because I didn't realize enough about the grip, but also I assumed it was good to have the weight of your ball symmetrical. But you enlightened me that really most bowling balls are asymmetrical.
Well, right. You can choose between a symmetrical or asymmetrical weight block. That's what's inside the bowling ball. The outside of the ball is referred to as the cover stock. It may be plastic, in which case that ball is not going to hook much at all. It may be urethane, which is going to go through oil, or reactive resin. A reactive resin ball is very porous, picks up a lot of oil off the lane.
So you've got these are your three balls or three of your balls?
Right, those are three of my balls. That's what I would typically bring to league night.
Okay, so it builds up your muscles too.
It does.
So tell me just the difference among the three balls.
Oh, sure. A symmetrical ball is going to hook a little bit less. It's going to go down the lane smoother in its transition to the hook phase.
Now, when we
will
talk
be
about
more,
hook,
more orderly.
we mean like going from right to left? Or
Right to
or
left or
depending?
right, depending. So a righty is typically going to try to make the ball move from right side of the lane into the pocket. The more drive you get on the ball, the more likely you're going to succeed, get a strike or
Now,
get a
what
count.
makes the balls, your bowling ball, what makes one ball hook better than another ball?
Well, when you say better, that's kind
guess
of a
more dramatic or-
right. The weight block inside the ball causes that ball to shift. A symmetrical ball, again, is going to run smoother. The asymmetrical weight block, the ball is always going to try to correct itself. It's always going to try to get right. And you will see the ball actually turning, so every time it rotates, there's a fresh surface of the ball touching the lane. So the oil is getting picked up more as the ball is driving. The asymmetrical ball will flip, will turn and hook a lot harder than a symmetrical ball, but you may not always want that. You may be on a lane that's very dry, the ball would start hooking too early, you don't have a chance. The lane is really oily, that's when you would probably turn to the asymmetrical ball.
Okay, and we're gonna talk about the lane
Okay.
in a little bit. What's inside of a bowling ball?
Well, three things, the bowling ball, the cover stock, then what's called filler, and then the weight block itself. The weight block takes on bizarre shapes. There are really, really weird looking balls. Even a symmetrical ball, the weight block may be taller than it is wide, so that's called a differential. That will cause the ball to hook differently. Asymmetrical, again, the ball is trying to correct itself, try and overcome what it feels is an imbalance. So you have two forces at work. You've got the linear motion, the ball going toward the pins, and then you've got that angular momentum that you're trying to create to get it to move to the pocket. You can roll a ball straight, depending on your grip and your release point. You can get it to roll straight to the pocket, but it's not going to do much for you. It's going to deflect. So you want to have that action on it where it's moving.
Okay, and I remember going to the bowling alley and looking at all these balls and finding one that fit my fingers. And as I recall, my fingers went in pretty deeply.
Right.
And when we were talking, you were really explaining how that's changed. Can you talk about
absolutely.
drilling for the
Sure.
grip?
There are three basic types, but your standard that you pick a ball off the rack. Your fingers up to here are going to go into the ball. Makes it easier to pick up, maybe even you think it's going to be easier to roll, but your fingers are in the ball too long. There's a split second at the release point. Your thumb is shorter, comes out first, then it's on the fingers. And as your hand goes around the ball, puts that turn on it to help it hook. So any good bowler is going to have a fingertip ball. You just want just the tips of your fingers in. And when you shoot spares, sometimes you don't even put those in all the way. You're just barely grabbing the ball because you're trying to roll it straight. Inside the finger holes, there are different grips that you can put in, rubber grips. Some have a little lip on them, some are very smooth. They're shaped differently. If you have oval fingers like I do, or your fingers are rounder, anything to make that take the pressure off your hand and still allow you to have a relaxed grip and control the ball.
Are all the balls drilled with the thumb and two fingers?
I've seen them drilled with 4 finger holes for senior citizens who don't have the strength. Makes that easier. Legally, the ball has to have at least 3 holes in it. Although there are some bowlers who don't put their thumb in the ball, there's still a thumb hole.
Really?
Really. Some people can hold it like this. The ball is resting on their forearm. Release it like
And you
that.
told me that there's been a change over time in the way a bowler releases the ball.
Absolutely. In the old days, when we were young, you were taught that the wrist had to be so firm, and they sold these devices that started about here and went up to your knuckles to keep that your wrist really firm. And you would hit up on the ball. You almost fling it up to get the spin on it. Now, because of the lanes, which are different, they're not wood anymore, because the balls have these weight blocks, you're trying to release the ball differently, with a more flexible wrist that allows that snap in your release, gets that side turn. So however your wrist is positioned, whether you're here, here, or here, and back here, determines how much of that spin you're putting on the ball at the release point. And again, that is a split second, right there, as that ball comes off your hand. You will hear people on league night say, I can't stand this lane. Sometimes it hooks, sometimes it doesn't. It isn't the lane, Ron, it isn't the lane. It's the guy who's steering that ball. Because sometimes your wrist is here, sometimes it's here, sometimes your fingers are back, sometimes they're not. And in that split instant, it has to come off right. So you have to work on that part of the game.
Okay, well, again, it's becoming more and more complex. Let me ask you this. You come to the bowling alley, you've got 3 bowling balls with you.
Right.
How do you know which one to use first?
Typically, one of your 3 bowling balls, or 7 bowling balls, however many I've seen guys bring, I am not kidding, 12 bowling balls on league night.
Really?
And he's coming to the same house that he's bowled on every week for 30 weeks. He still brings so many bowling balls. One will be considered your benchmark ball. You know what this ball is going to do. You warm up with that ball and you see how it reacts. And then you know, this is the right ball for me. I have to ball up or ball down. I have to get a ball that finishes stronger or a ball that rolls longer before it hooks. And you go back to your bag and take out the one you want. Okay. and go with that.
Okay. Our wonderful director, Larry, can we have the first couple slides up? This is kind of to show what Bob might have in his bag when he's going bowling.
Beginner set, you see a ball, a bag, shoes, a rosin bag, and some covers for your shoes. So if you have to go to the water fountain between shots, you would cover your shoes with those. so you don't want to step in something, you know,
Okay.
step on an ice cube or a piece of gum or
And
something.
next one, please.
All right, so here's some of the things that we've been looking at in a bigger bag there. The goodie bag with all the little things in it, which we could go through. The shoes with the various slide pads, covers for your shoes.
Okay, and next slide. That's a lot of stuff.
They sell bowling bags that attach to carts. In 6 or
Yeah,
9
I mean,
balls.
12 balls.
Here we go.
And this is more
So more stuff that you might have. I carry an extra pair of shoelaces with me because, you know, you tie that shoe, you're ready to go bowling, and the shoelace snaps. Ball cleaner, pads like you see there.
Yeah.
Those pads you can use before competition starts to change the surface of your ball marginally. Maybe you want to rough up the ball to make it read earlier or hook earlier, or you want to smooth out the ball because the lane is real dry. You can do that up until competition starts. After that, you have to put all that stuff away.
Okay. All right, well, because you know, the time is just whipping by, let's talk about the actual lane, because you made so many allusions to the lane.
Right.
So is it fair to say that every lane is different, and every lane might, in a given lane on a Thursday might be different on a Friday or a Saturday?
Absolutely correct. But I would like to point this out.
Yes.
If you went and shot a round of golf in Deerfield, or a round of golf in Florida, or one in California, every course is different. Whether there are trees or no trees, whether there's ponds, tall grass, no grass. When you go to a bowling alley in California, or a bowling alley in Deerfield, you're going to see the same thing. You're going to see a lane that's 60 feet long, that's 42 inches wide, that has 39 boards.
Boards meaning those little...
The long strips,
Okay.
right? So they look like, they're not really, but they look like individual pieces of wood. They were in the old days. But what you can't see is the oil. So that's an obstacle that you're trying to overcome, but you can't see. Sometimes the lane is oiled 46 feet long. Sometimes it's 32 feet long. Sometimes it's left to right even. Oftentimes it's not. The oil is concentrated in the middle of the lane. And so you take out your
Excuse me,
bench.
but
I'm sorry.
why would the bowling alley do that?
To add to the challenge. If you had the same monotonous shot every week, the game becomes so easy that you get bored. If it's so difficult that you can't score, you're not going to come back either, because I only shot 95 that game rather than 195. So you always look to meet that challenge. Now, the low average bowler isn't going to catch on right away as to where that oil is and make the complaint that this lane stinks. But that's your challenge. You take out your benchmark ball, you roll it over your normal spot, and you believe what you see if you're good enough. You say, well, I'm going to have to make this change or that change. The oil is longer today. I'm going to have to use a different ball. My wife and I bowl in a league of seniors. There's virtually no oil on the lane. And so all the seniors with their 10-pound bowling balls, the ball hooks quite a bit. It's kind of fun. But on league night with younger bowlers, let's say, it's going to be more challenging.
So, you know, when you describe it, it's almost like there's individual topography. Like if you had something infrared, every
Absolutely.
lane might be different. You know, some would be higher here, lower here, a valley, a ridge.
Absolutely. Some people refer to it as adult bumper bowling because the outside of the lane is so dry. You roll your ball out there, it comes back to the pocket. It's almost like it hit a bumper and came back, because the ball rolls out there, gets its friction, its traction, and can make the turn.
So if you're bowling 3 games,
Right.
doesn't the lane change from the first game to the third game?
Lane transition is very important.
Lane-
That's a great
lane
lane transition. Excellent
Okay.
point.
Okay.
Because let's say someone is using a urethane ball, that ball is going to push the oil farther down. Guys complain about carry down. The ball doesn't hook as much now because the oil is deeper. Others would use a resin ball that picks up a lot of oil. Your ball is going to change. There are some legal cleaners you can use, but again, you can't rough it up with a pad. So you have to change your target or maybe your starting position or both. It's hard to change things like your axis rotation, but you can increase or decrease your speed. You can play different parts of the lane.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the bowling form. All right, so everybody
Okay.
wants to get a strike.
Sure.
So is there kind of a standard form and then people put variations on it?
Absolutely. Great question. People will bowl 3-step approach to 5-step approach. The great Mark Roth from the 1970s took about 16 steps. You just skittered up there and fired the ball. But the basic way to bowl is a 4-step approach. Your first picking the ball up is important. How you snatch it off the rack, rolling it onto your thumb. Your first step is going to be measured. You put the ball out that far. Second step, the ball's coming back. Third step, you're ready to go. And your slide step, you come forward.
If you're
and forward.
right-handed, is your first step off your left foot?
A 4-step approach is right, left, right, left.
Right, left, right, left. For a right-handed?
For a right-handed. So you want to bowl, you want to end up on your opposite foot. So I take 5 steps. I take a baby step with my left foot, and then it's right, left, right, left. through the
We've
shot.
got some pictures on. They're not coming up real great, so let's see how they come up.
Okay.
Larry, if you could show us. Okay, is that the first?
All right, so that's the step. You see the ball in his right hand, and it's out as far as his right foot is on his first step. So it's right over his toe.
Please.
What I like out there too is that you carry the ball in both hands on that first step to take the pressure off of your right hand.
Okay.
Second step, he swung it back just past his right knee. He's stepping out.
So do any bowlers really, and we can go to the next one, any bowlers really put it way back?
Put it over their heads. There are.
Okay.
Mike Fagan puts the ball, his arm is straight up and down.
Okay.
Shoulder height is pretty good. If you
Step
go
3?
between the waist and the shoulder, you can control the ball. You can still control the ball even if you're not Superman.
Okay, and next?
So you're going into your 4th step now. You see how close the ball is to his ankle. His left hand, you'll notice, is down, and the back of his hand is facing the pins. That keeps his left shoulder forward. He's getting to release it. The thumb is just coming out of the ball now, but it's still on his fingers.
Now, how might that be different if a senior is watching this and saying, well, when I was 15 or 20, you weren't.
That's right, you weren't, but you didn't have urethane bowling balls. You didn't have reactive resin balls. I'd like to point out here in his follow-through, his elbow, his right elbow is pointing to his target. If you were going to give a tip to a beginning bowler, the inside of your elbow should be facing your target, and as you finish, the outside, the back of your elbow should be facing your target. That keeps the ball on line. So many different body parts moving. Look at that finish position. His knee is behind his toe. His right foot is to the left of his spine. His left hand is, the back of his hand is facing the pins. That keeps that shoulder pointed. He is tilted over about 10 degrees. His shoulders are behind his toes. He's not leaning way forward, off balance. So he's got good there. Nice position at finish. You see where his knee is, just behind his toe. Shoulders are behind his knees. So he's not leaning too much forward. A lot of times you'll see people stagger to the ball side, to the right side, because now that 15-pound weight is gone. It's off his hand, and you've been protecting against it. Now the weight isn't there, so you stumble to the right. But his form is terrific.
Okay. Now, we talked about a term that I had never heard before called spot bowling.
Right.
So if you're approaching the lane, you want to get a strike, where you're looking?
What a great question. The bowling pins are 60 feet away. It's a lot easier to hit a target that's 10 or 12 feet away than 60 feet away. So on every bowling lane, there are painted darts or arrows. You can see 7 of the 10 pins, and then 3 behind them. Each one of those pins lines up, or those arrows line up to the 7 pins that you can see. That starts about 9 feet down the lane, 10 feet down the lane to about 13 feet down. And ahead of that, between the foul line and those arrows, are a set of dots. It may be easier for you to look down and see those dots, see the arrows. You can draw a line mentally between the dots and the arrows and try and get the ball on that path. Way easier because your head is down in the right position, looking at your target, not looking up here. It's easier to put the ball down to that target. If you have a consistent release, a consistent hook, once you hit that target, you have a pretty good idea. Oh, I missed. I didn't miss. Oh, that's going to be a good shot. Oh, it's going to be a miserable shot.
Sometimes when I have watched bowling and I see professional bowlers and they release the ball and they already seem to know if it's going to be a strike or not.
Right. And again, these people bowl between 150 and 200 games a week. And so they pretty much know what's going to happen.
What now, going for spares, seems
Big
like an art unto itself. Huh?
Big part of the game. My whole philosophy of bowling when I was young was if I could just hit the head pin on every shot, I don't care the right side or the left side, and then pick up the 1 or 2 remaining, I would be a 180 bowler. And I became a 180 bowler by doing that. I don't get a lot of strikes, but I make my spares. There are techniques to use. Again, it's targeting. You stand in a different position. Your release is going to be different. Typically, you will try to roll the ball straighter, cross lane perhaps, but straighter than trying to make the ball hook. You just want to, because it's a smaller target, and once you hit that pin, you're good. You don't have to worry about one pin hitting another into another into another, like a strike ball. You're just trying to tap over the one that's left.
And we talked about another term I hadn't heard about called going for the count.
In bowling, if you know how to score at bowling, for example, if you're on a spare, you would get 10 pins for that frame plus your first shot in the next frame. So if you got a 9 count, you get 19. Now, if you leave a spare, a big split that's difficult to pick up, 7-10 being the worst imaginable, but a makeable spare, 1 pin in the left side, 1 pin on the far right side. You could try to scrape 1 pin, slide across the lane, hit the other. Hard to do. But to get that 1 pin, a little easier. I've been in many matches that were decided by 1 pin.
So it's like every vote counts.
Every pin counts. Exactly right. Exactly right. So I would recommend, unless you're a terrific bowler, unless you absolutely have to have that spare to win the game, go for the count early on.
Okay, we have a minute.
Oh.
So in bowling, there's the 3 C's: consistency, concentration, and confidence. Tell me about confidence.
Absolutely. The more you practice, the better things are. And you go into it, I don't care if you're going up against a guy that's 6'7" or you're built low to the ground like me, you have a chance because you know you can do it. You can't get rattled, but you know that your practice is going to pay off. I know how to pick up that spare. I'm going to stand here and roll it straight and hit it. I don't have a chance to make that spare. Oh my gosh, I really need it. Not going to get it.
And so it's even if you're on a team, it's still kind of, when you're up there, it's it's like being baseball. You're in a team.
And everybody's
watching.
Everybody's watching it, right? And you know that.
But I guess one of the differences between the pros and amateurs, besides the skill, is the confidence.
Absolutely.
Well,
good point.
Bob Blake, thank you for sparing your time here, and we could go on and on with a lot of puns, but you've made bowling seem both complex, but so fascinating, so much more fascinating than I thought. I hope our audience agrees, and
hope so.
Thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time for What's This Show For, FOR, Friends of Ron. Thanks to Bob Blake, and we'll see you next time.